All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Brina Panetta, and I'm going to be doing my project on vernal pools. So what is a vernal pool? These are temporary seasonal wetlands, and they are a seasonal cycle of flooding and drying, and it's a type of reservoir. They have hydro periods, which is when water accumulates in the pool for a duration of time, and often from fall to spring, they accumulate water. They gain the most water from snowmelt and then dry out in the hot summer weather. So in the summertime, in the dry season, this is a dried vernal pool, and you could see that the water has not accumulated because it has dried out because of the sun, but because of snow melt, water begins to accumulate in these ditches and areas like this, and the vernal pools will start to build up. So here's this little video I found about visiting a vernal pool.
The ditches right along the sides of the path are full of water. A lot of it's snow melt, but they create these seasonal pools or vernal pools, vernal meaning spring. They fill up with water in the springtime, and by the fall, they'll probably be dried up. There probably won't be much water, but that creates the temporary pond ecosystem that's created right here, makes it really uniquely suited to a lot of different creatures, specifically amphibians. So it's
All right, so moving on from that slide. Oh, goodness.
The ditches right along the sides of the path are full of.
Moving on. So we have the importance of vernal pools. So vernal pools are breeding habitat for amphibians and invertebrates, like what he just said. And animals migrate into vernal pools in order to breed and to lay their eggs in a safe habitat. Carnivores in the area also have food source, feeding on the eggs, frogs, and salamanders residing in the vernal pool. So if you have like invertebrates like the dragonfly or different type of larvae, they are a sensitive species and they represent a healthier environment. And then there's also reptiles like turtles, and they prey on the animals that live inside the vernal pools, and so do birds. They also prey on the frogs and the salamanders living in here, and they also eat the vegetation around the vernal pools. And then other mammals can use the vernal pools for drinking purposes or also eating on the different species inside the vernal pools. So right here we have a fairy shrimp, and right here we have a wood frog. So where do they occur? Vernal pools exist anywhere, or can exist anywhere. Examples would be like forest or marshes or in gravel. They're oftentimes located in isolated wetlands or in floodplains. So that means they're just not connected to any other sort of like rivers or lakes. And they're small bodies of water typically, but they can stretch up and take up several acres of land, but usually they don't. And I want to show you an example of a very large vernal pool. So right here is Alcott Lake, and it is approximately 40 acres, and it is located in Jackson Country, Michigan. And it has been collecting water since the last ice age, and it is known to be the largest vernal pool. So I want to talk about the underlying geology now in vernal pools. So there's a layer of permeable rock at the bottom of the vernal pool. And vernal pools are underlain by various layers. The materials underneath the vernal pool determine how well the water is retained depending on how permeable the layers are. And most vernal pools are made up of low permeability layers. There are some examples of higher ones. But permeable means that water does not easily pass through the solid. So most vernal pools are made up of like clay because it's harder for the water to pass through underneath it. Next, we're going to talk about surface water. This is the water that collects at the top or the surface layer of the water. Oftentimes algae can build up on here, or it can be a drinking place for other mammals. Um, and surface water can be on any body of water. It doesn't have to necessarily be vernal pools, but it's very important to vernal pools because this water is all collecting in these ditches and floodplains. And we're also going to talk about groundwater. This is the water that seeps through the permeable rock and into the soil and sand underneath the vernal pool. So as you can see here, this is the vernal pool. It's a very small vernal pool, and the water is going to seep through this. As I was saying before, how it has permeable layers, so it is seeping through these permeable layers, and it is now going to go underneath the ground, and it can supply the surrounding wells and the springs with water. And then finally, here are my citations. So thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.